Namaste, I go by Brittany Shanae. So today's video is about letting go. Stop clinging to things that no longer serve you, or simply give a little bit of space to the things that do. So I wanted to start with a quote by Lao Tzu, one of the authors for the Tao Te Ching. The quote is, "He who clings to his work will create nothing that endures." And that's extremely powerful. I know that in just starting this channel and in pursuing many of my dreams in the past, I've run into some situations where I was trying so hard to achieve something that I didn't really give it space to breathe, or I was looking for results really quickly, and when I didn't see things that I wanted to see in the amount of time that I wanted to see them, I would normally burn myself out, create all kind of anxiety for myself, which turned into this cycle of depression, and then I would get stuck, and then whatever I was working on would eventually come to this pause, and then I would go further down the depression hole because the things that I really wanted, for some reason, always seemed like they were just so close yet so far from my grasp to accomplish. And that's something I noticed that a lot of people do, is that they just hold on too tightly to the things that they want, and in turn they burn themselves out. They don't take care of themselves. They don't listen to people who say, slow down, you have time. And when you start to really understand who you are as a spiritual being, a light being, a magician, a wizard in a sense, is that you have full control over your life. But when you're using your energy in the wrong way, at the wrong time, you will find that you're going to run into a whole lot of roadblocks. And essentially you will never get started, or you'll get started but you'll run into a roadblock. So the quote by Michel de Montaigne is a very important one that I just ran across, more recently, and I see it all the time. You see people who hold on to their opinions so strongly that they almost become, if not just straight up become offended by people having an opposing opinion, which can cause a whole lot of issues. And it's something we see all the time in politics. It's something we see all the time between people of different faiths and religions. It's definitely something you see in relationships, whether it's romantic or familial. And the thing about opinions is it's based partially in fact, but also based in our own personal experience. And your experience as individual is unique to you. And other people, may have experienced something totally different. So something that works for someone else may not work for you. And if you spend so much energy trying to convince somebody of what it is that you think and what you feel, you're going to end up using all kind of valuable energy on the wrong things. It's often going to create conflict, and it's going to drain you of energy that you can use towards achieving your dreams. Now this quote is extremely important, but first there's something that I need to specify. So in this quote, it mentions specifically God's forgiveness. Now again, this is going based off of opinion, right? There are some people who will see God as an external being who bestows blessings upon us or bestows forgiveness upon us. And there are those of us who believe that we are a part of a God consciousness, and that, really you are God, we are God, we are pieces of God, and when we operate in that godliness, in this particular case for the quote, we ourselves are forgiving ourselves. And you'll notice that oftentimes we are our toughest critics, and that gets in the way of us also achieving our goals and living our best lives. So in this case, you can't embrace life, you can't embrace forgiving yourself because you're tied up with old grudges. Maybe whatever you did or you feel guilty about, you feel like it made you question your own character and what you knew about yourself. And oftentimes those can be twisted into mixed emotions about how we feel about ourselves and how we feel about the world. Maybe you did something you never expected that you would do. You got put in a situation and you made a choice that was totally out of character, and you just have a hard time forgiving yourself Maybe you just made a really, really big mistake out of emotion or some sort of illogical something that just caused a huge upheaval, and maybe there was some really huge consequences for that, and you know, for whatever reason you're continuing to punish yourself instead of moving on, you know. And there is nothing at all that benefits you in punishing yourself, especially when everyone else has moved on. It serves no one for you to walk around as a martyr, paying penance for something that's dead and gone. You know, it's gone. Not saying that you shouldn't be humbled, not saying there's not something to learn from it, but you definitely have to learn how to forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. There are going to be people out there who tell you that you shouldn't forgive yourself. They're going to look at you and be like, oh, you're a narcissist or whatever, but you have to forgive yourself. So a story about me was that I made a choice to leave home, and I felt really guilty about that. When I moved from California to St. Louis, I did something that, from the belief of the foundation in which I grew up in, which was Christianity, that moving away and living with a man that you were not married to was considered sinful. And I did carry a lot of guilt about that. And I left my family. Some of my family at the time, like my grandparents, were ill, and a couple of them passed away while I was away. I did, you know, make it to their funerals, but it was tough having to make that choice for me. And, you know, moving here helped set a lot of things in motion for my life. And had I stayed in California, I know that I would have been stuck. I know it. As much as I love my family, as much as I want to, you know, support them and be there for them as they grow older or certain milestones happen. You know, I've had to miss birthdays, I've had to miss, you know, graduations, and it gets tough. It really, really gets tough. And I used to feel really guilty, like I had isolated myself or alienated myself in some way. But, you know, thankfully, I was able to get to a point where I forgave myself and said, you know what? Yeah, I could have been there for all of that. I could have been there for those people. But at the end of the day, when I was there, I was not fulfilled. And what kind of person would I have been? How supportive could I have been if I had stayed anyway? And I had to think about that. And when I started to grow and learn the things that I learned and met the people that I met, you know, it was easier to forgive myself, but it was tough. And even looking back on it, sometimes it's still tough to go, man, I miss those things. I'll never get those moments back. But it's all about what you do going forward. So you have to forgive yourself. There are people out here who have done some atrocious things to people, or people who have just simply mistreated themselves. Forgive yourself for mistreating yourself. Forgive yourself for letting other people mistreat you. That's something else that I had to deal with. When I was in college, man, I was coming from, you know, a history of just, you know, being disrespected by men. And I allowed it, you know. And that's the sad thing, was that for the longest time, you know, I didn't feel like I deserved the type of love that in my mind and my heart I knew that I wanted. But, you know, for whatever reason, I had this blockage in my heart. And I just felt like, you know, well, if people just don't treat me right, you know, I treat them right, or whatever, then maybe I just don't deserve love. And then I got to a point where I just started to accept what I could get. And I realized that I could not get out of that pattern until I forgave myself for allowing that treatment, and then coming to a point where I said, I'm not tolerating this anymore. Nothing less than what I know I deserve. And that wasn't without help, trust me. I definitely had to have some support, some help, who is now my husband, interestingly enough, but that's a story for a different video. And my dog. I have to forgive my dog a lot. He destroyed a lot of things, which, you know what, I think I'm gonna do a video on that in the future. Probably a part of our relationships is pets. Pets will teach you a thing or two. There are some people who just jump into having children, but let me tell you something. If you ever want a taste of parenthood and having to forgive somebody who don't care and keep doing the same things, like, destroying your belongings, yeah, forgiveness. But different video for another day. But you know, forgiveness is a big part of not clinging to things. And until you forgive yourself, you'll never learn how to forgive other people. And then when people walk all over you, you know, you'll start to accept it because you go, you know what, I deserve this mistreatment. Yeah, I deserve to be mistreated because I did this thing or I didn't do this thing. And so this is my life and I accept this maltreatment. Not true. That is a lie from the pits, let me tell you. I'm gonna tell one more story, which is just sort of a background for why I decided to do this video. So if you're like me, you are into the show Insecure. And you may know that there are quite a few people out there who are not very happy that the character Lawrence is no longer on the show. And there were some people who felt so strongly about this that they decided that they were going to make a petition to bring Lawrence back. Well, me and my husband had a very, very, very long conversation about, very long and kind of heated conversation about the importance of Lawrence in this story, right? So if you watch Insecure, you pretty much know that the story revolves mostly around Issa and her best friend Molly. But essentially it's about Issa and the circle that surrounds Issa and the people close to her. And for Lawrence, you know, he was in a relationship that didn't work. But unlike a lot of situations, this couple actually got to a point where they were actually able to be adults for a moment, you know, have a real conversation, forgive each other, and shut the door on the situation. Move on to the next chapter, clear the air, get the closure they needed, and move on. And essentially, you know, if you don't work out with somebody and it's not meant for you to be friends, that is an ideal way to break up. Now, you know, if you haven't seen the show, I won't ruin too much, but let's just say there was a whole lot of drama that happened before that closure happened. And yeah, ideally you wouldn't have to go through the drama to get to the closure. But my husband took the position that Lawrence should have remained on the show, that we should have followed his evolution. And I said, well, to me it was quite obvious that the show was about Issa and, you know, the people in her circle. But if she has reached a level of, y'all, my dog is so dramatic, don't mind him. He's mad that I'm in here doing a video and not hanging out with him right now, but I will give him some quality time. Anyway, what was I saying? Okay, so he felt as though we should have followed the evolution of Lawrence after the breakup, which I said, well, there's no point in that when the show is about Issa and her life and how she's moved on. And, you know, in a perfect world, people are able to have those moments and shut the door on that chapter instead of trying to hold on to something that, you know, no longer serves them, whether it is having a relationship or having a friendship afterwards. Sometimes it's best to just cut people off. And it sounds cold, but really it's for the betterment of both parties. And if he's no longer a part of her story, which is what the show Insecure is about, there's no reason for us to show his evolution. Now, maybe he could be added on later as a side character who hangs out with one of the guys, but he's no longer that important of a character as far as it relates to Issa. And, you know, my husband, he's argumentative. He's a Leo, I'm an Aries, and you can imagine most of our conversations and how they go. But he just fought me hard on it, like, no, it's not fair. I don't even care about Issa's story. I don't even care about Molly's story. And I said, well, you don't have to care about their story. I'm not saying they're the most interesting story, even though I personally like Molly's story. You know, but that's not the point. The point is, at the end of the day, the show is about this, and he's no longer a part of that. And I said, and it's funny, the people who hold on to that, who like are holding on to Lawrence, I bet you can find a pattern in their lives where they hold on to things and to people that no longer serve them. They so busy stalking people on Facebook and Instagram and whatnot, instead of just letting the shit go. Just let it go. They're no longer a part of your lives. Let it go. Now, if you manage to be friends with an ex, great for you. I hope it works out. However, if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be, and it's okay to move on and to not know how that person evolves because it no longer concerns you. And I had to put him on blast too because he the same way. You know, he be clinging to stuff too. And I say this from someone with experience. I tease him about it, but I say that because I've been there. I've been in situations where I've held on to people who I just wanted. I love so much, and I wanted them to love me with the same sort of passion and vigor, and it just didn't happen. They just didn't see me that way, or they would use me because I was so caught up in this, even though there were so many signs saying, girl, move the hell on. But I just had tunnel vision, and I didn't have control over myself and my feelings, and it ran rampant, and I made all kind of terrible decisions that got myself in a lot of fucked up situations because of that. And thankfully, I was able to grow and let things go, cut off people. Now, I'm a pretty compassionate person too, so if somebody contacts me and I don't feel like there's any harm in it, I don't want to say entertain them, but I don't mind catching up and saying, hey, how are you? I hope you're well. Good to hear from you. Deuces. And it's okay to check on people like that. Like, I'm glad to know you're alive. But, you know, sometimes that's all the interaction you need. Sometimes it just has to stop there. And in some cases, in the case of Insecure, well, of course, it's only been one episode at this point. But as of right now, Lawrence is gone. He's out of her life. And ideally, that's how it would look when you really, 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 truly moved on. Is you don't see another person's evolution. Maybe you will later down the road, we don't know. But you have to let people go. You have to live and let live. You have to free yourself from grudges. You have to free yourself from the shoulda, coulda, woulda. You've got to free yourself from, you know, I gotta have this, I need this, I want it so bad. And it's perfectly okay to have that fire inside of you, want something so bad. But sometimes you've got to evaluate your desire, evaluate that wanting. There could be something behind that that's causing you to be stuck, especially when you're finding yourself in a pattern of starting and stopping and starting and stopping again. So that's pretty much the end, guys. Let me know in the comments if there was a time where you were holding on to something that you needed to let go, or maybe this video helped you realize there was something that you've been holding on to that you need to let go. And also let me know if there's anything else you want me to talk about specifically, if you have any questions or whatnot. Again, I go by Brittany Shanae, and it was lovely talking to you. Till next time, deuces.